Hey, y'all. So I am really excited to have this chat with you because we haven't had a solo talk in a little while. And while I love bringing people in on our conversations, there's a couple things I want to talk about with you too. So this one is all about our bodies. Now, if you've been following along for a while, you know that I have been through a lot of iterations of who I am and what I look like. And if you are a recent Substack subscriber, you know that I've had conversations behind the scenes of everything. If you aren't a Substack subscriber, I would love for you to check out my Substack. I'll have the details in the show notes below. It's called Context is Everything. And that's because it is. I always like to fill in the gaps. So I want to do a little bit of that here, but obviously you can read more and hear more and have conversation about it in the community there. Now, you know, I've been on the internet now for 15 years, I think, in a higher visibility way, and 20 plus years. You know, my school was like the 14th school to show up on Facebook, right? So, I mean, I remember sitting in my dorm room watching when Johns Hopkins University went live on Facebook, and we all were like, we're like in social network. Like it was a thing. So, aging myself. But that said, ever since then, I've been sharing photos online, uploading to albums, and basically growing up, you know. And with that, like anyone now, as a woman who is turning 42 this year, my body's gone through a lot of changes. Some are just, you know, natural, some are by choice, some are hormonal, some are by choice and hormonal, like having a baby. And one of the things that happens with increased visibility on the internet is that people have a lot of questions. We live in a society where if you are a woman, people have a lot of questions about what you look like. They feel entitled to ask them because our society is one that puts a lot of weight in things like pretty privilege and what your body looks like in terms of capability and what they think it means about your mindset and your accomplishments and your capabilities. There's a lot of judgment that goes along with it. And as a rule, I have not talked about my body. So I want to start there. I haven't really talked much about what I do. Now, does that mean I haven't shared a bikini picture or during the divorce, a thirst trap? Can I get an amen? You know, like, or, you know, some photos where I've shared how proud I am in my changes, or even a little bit about what I'm learning or the journey I'm on or what's working for me. And yeah, I've shared those things, particularly at a time when there weren't as many damn grifters on the internet selling every single hack that, you know, they believe that can work, you know, for your body. Yeah, I've shared some of those things, and no one has a right to talk about your body ever. Right? Like, it doesn't matter what you share, you know, like I, as a woman, should feel safe enough to walk through a room full of men totally naked and expect no one to touch me. Right? Because people should have physical constraint over themselves, and no one is entitled to my body in any circumstance. That is a fact. Right? But I also recognize that that is, you know, not the world we live in. And presently, even if it is the one we aspire to and deserve. And for that reason, in what I share online, I do have some regrets, because I do think that in sharing some things about my body, people feel entitled to speak on it more than they should and in ways that they shouldn't. And I think it's worth saying, and I hope everyone hears it, I'm really proud of how I've approached it. So if you've kept up, you know that I've shared my Weekday vegetarian journey, which was, some of you will definitely recall it. It was from, I want to say, probably 15 years ago now. I shared how I changed my diet over from being primarily meat-based. This was long before paleo and people going like keto and all of that. We're talking, this is early 2000s. You know, I was sharing about how, as a personal journey, I wanted to learn how to eat more vegetables, that I grew up in a household that was heavily reliant on meat-based diets, as coming from an African background. Like, it was heavy on meat and seafood as like the focus, plus an American standard diet where it's a very heavily focused on meats. And And anytime we would have vegetables, they were usually processed in some way. Processed not meaning processed foods in the way that you typically hear about it. Processed foods are also any foods that are served outside of their altered state. So, in African cuisine, if it's, a tomato is turned into a stew, I may not have a traditional relationship with tomatoes because I'm not used to just eating a sliced tomato all the time. I'm used to eating it in a stew or a soup or something to that effect. So what I found out was as I got older, especially as I was trying to navigate my health around my body, because I was, by statistical definition, overweight, based on the numbers as I was told by my doctors, which I'd been considered overweight since I was 9, which if you look back at data based on as we know it now, I was not overweight at 9. And can a 9-year-old even be overweight because their bodies are doing whatever? But that said, I've been overweight my whole life, according to the numbers. As I was starting to look at my health, because I was experiencing blood pressure impacts and pre-diabetes impacts and things like that, eating more vegetables, and learning more about how I ate was a priority. And weekday vegetarianism allowed me to do that. So if you're not familiar with what it essentially is Monday through Friday trying to live a plant-forward diet by significantly reducing or eliminating meat consumption. And then on weekends, eating meat if I feel like it. Y'all, I just want to let you know, I do not advocate for, and I do not want to, trigger anyone who may have any sort of eating disorders or who may be in a state where they are struggling to navigate things. I am not a doctor. I'm not a professional. And my number one thing I always say to people is the best place to start if you're looking to start any sort of body journey is with your doctor. You should absolutely go get your numbers first. I've said this for 20 plus years. You can Google back to the beginning. I'm not selling anything. I don't have a relationship with anything. I really believe that the greatest place to start is to go to your doctor, find out what your numbers are, and then work with them and maybe a nutritionist or a dietitian as is their recommendation, and just do anything your doctor says. So if your doctor, says for you that what makes sense based on the science is that you should start a plant-based diet or drink more water or even get surgery or start a GLP-1 or whatever. Listen to your doctor. That is a personal, intimate relationship that you have that you should do as seems fit for you. For me, I wanted to learn more about eating vegetables. So weekday vegetarian is where I started. And it was great. I noticed that I not only dropped a significant amount of weight, but it was easy for me to keep off. That style of eating worked for me. I was able to build a comfort and a familiarity and a love of eating vegetables and grains and complex, carbohydrates. And it was just, I felt like my world was widened in all the different ways that I could love vegetables. And I felt like I was cooking in a more creative way. And it really changed my life. And that way of eating changed once I got my girls. So if you're new here, I adopted 3 girls and they came into my life in a very unexpected way. If you are not familiar with the story, it's everywhere on the internet, but you can also grab my book, Nothing is Missing, where I talk about that story. But my girls came from a traumatic background where they dealt with even more food insecurity and struggles. So for my girls, we took them to Chipotle one time and they were picking out the little bits of cilantro because they were so unfamiliar with vegetables. They were like, we don't know what this is. My daughter at age 11 only knew apples from photos because they lived in a food desert where it was very difficult for them to get fresh things. And that wasn't common in their household because fresh goods were expensive, So, canned goods occurred if they did at all. Meal prep was usually limited to like a pizza or maybe some cereal or ramen noodles, and there was rarely enough to go around. So coming into my household, it was trying to figure out a way, like we're eating vegetarian, you're coming from a place where you're barely eating at all. How do we find the happy medium? So, and then there were also, while respecting their privacy, some health concerns that we all felt would be best addressed if we integrated meat into their diet as well. So we had to kind of step back off of that, me and my ex-husband at the time. And, I found myself back on this sort of yo-yo cycle of trying to mind my diet, and trying to figure out how to keep the weight off and in a way to keep my numbers down, which is honestly a better way of describing it. It wasn't about keeping the weight off. It was about keeping the numbers down. And that's kind of where I want to go from all of this. For those of you who've seen me sort of get to a point where I was like, I need to keep this weight down. This is all long before GLP-1s, long before that time. I was in and out talking to nutritionists. I have tried everything from diet pills to, there's surgeries that you can do. There's, fitness regimens. There's the extreme workouts. There are over-the-counter pills. I think like a lot, oh my God, Weight Watchers, counting points. I've really done everything. And I say all of this to say, everything worked. Like, I really believe, and I hope that people hear me when I say this, I do not have an allegiance to a particular form of weight loss. I have an allegiance to a mindset around your body and doing what works and sustains for you. And that's what I hope that this conversation kind of strips back. Being someone who is highly visible on the internet, I have had people talk about me and call me everything but my name. I've had people speculate around my body and make commentary around my body in a way that is not just harmful or disrespectful, but sometimes you wonder what the intent is. Like, what is the point of that? Is it because you believe that it will like lessen my worth, or that there's like an exposure from it? Because as somebody who I'm not a fitness guru, I'm not selling anything related to that. So what is the intent around talking about? I don't profit off my body, and I don't sell anything or advocate for anything off my body. So to discuss it is, one, dangerous, right? Because you never know what someone's going through. I think that, we've all looked at celebrities and said, oh, I don't say this to lump myself into celebrities, but anyone who's, highly visible and noticed that they may have been losing weight or whatever else, and or gaining it for that matter, and people didn't know they were going through a health concern, So sometimes I've kind of wondered what people's intent was behind that, outside of just saying something mean, or trying to humble me or diminish me. But plot twist, right? And I hope that if there's anything you can take from me in terms of confidence in your own body journey and in your own life, and I call it a body journey. It's not just a weight loss journey. It's like liking the body you're in, right? If you're on your body journey and you've watched me go through a body journey and you're wondering, Nicole, how do you even do this on the internet? Like, how are you allowing people to see you consistently in the many bodies you've carried? Because there are people who, if they're overweight, will not show up on the internet, or if people are dealing with a skin breakout, they won't show up on the internet, or people while they're pregnant will feel less, qualified or pretty or good enough to be on the internet, or the vice versa, like they're in seasons where they're feeling really good and they want to share it, or things have changed. And I've noticed that a lot. And if you're on a body journey, or if you feel like you're perpetually on a body journey because our bodies are changing with or without our permission sometimes, I want you to know that the secret for me has always been that I've made an intention to like the body I'm in no matter what, on any season I'm in. So when people would talk about me when I was larger, like I've even heard comments like, I don't know how I could work with her as like a business coach when she can't even control the food that goes into her mouth. Like, I've seen comments like that, and I remember them because they're mean, right? We always remember the mean things people say, but I have to tell you, things like that don't really affect me much, because it's like, one, you get to miss out on, I'm a really great business consultant, so you miss out on that. But also, what? Like, how are those two things related? And also, I looked good big. Like, I think that that's also like my bigger body is really like, I look good bigger too. Like, one of the things that's been the hardest about being small is my boobs have deflated. Like, but when I'm bigger, these joints are like plump and round, I have a really nice curvy body. I have a really nice ass, like there's a lot of things and I maintain a lot of those things even when I'm smaller. I don't know. I just think that sometimes, and I hope you're hearing this wherever you are, the things that you've had put into your brain about your body, whether it's from society or other people, I'm learning more and more, particularly within the white community. If you guys are on Threads, you should check it out. But a lot of people are talking about this, like it's been trending, that like within, and I don't know, I could be wrong, put it in the comments below, but amongst white women, a lot of them receive some of their first criticisms and pressure around their body, right to almost to the level of eating disorders from their own mothers, which is, look, white people are not a monolith and Black people aren't either. But I will tell you, in the Black community, yes, we may receive criticism, but it's like different criticism. It's like, you're skinny, get more ass, or like your ass looks great, or like, it's just very different. Like, or girl, you better eat. Like, it's a different energy, and it's not okay either. But it seems like, in my opinion, when I look at my experience culturally, that there's a far wider range of acceptance of your body within the Black community and a inherent permission, to show up in different ways and forms. Like, big girls get it. I say this as someone who's been both. Like, I have not had trouble getting a man in either body. And I don't know what's going on in the, white community where so much is wrapped up in the size of your body, that there's this like internalized hate that I think sometimes is projected outwards. But when I look at that, it saddens me, because you have got to like the body you're in. And I'm not just saying that to white men, I'm also saying it to the brown girls and the Black girls who are listening too. The body you're in whatever season it's in, it can change, it can morph, it can grow, it can shrink, it can grow life, it can sustain your own life. And you can't hate it along the way, right? Like, when you see someone who's in the gym who may be of a larger body, who's looking to change it, whether it's just to add muscle or to build up their core so they can carry a child or they can recover from an injury, how dare you mock them when they're clearly in the process of that change, right? And so that's something that I've always felt around my body. I always thought it was an odd thing for people to come for when I clearly don't have a problem with it. Like, it's not something, and if I changed or modified my body, anytime I have ever modified my body, it's been health related. Like, it's not like, or health or personal preference. So like, I get Botox because I like it. Like, I like the way that my face looks with it because I have really good skin. And when I get Botox, it tightens up my skin so it looks even better. Right. And it also allows me to free up my time because I can wear less makeup because I have great skin. I can pop on some concealer like I'm doing right now and like walk out the door. And I liked the way I look. And I don't know. I really hate to hear that so many people are either, in my comments, in my DMs, or clients that I've worked with who felt like they either had to change their look or modify their look, or that they weren't ready. They can do the thing at the finish line when their body catches up to their dreams, hopes, and aspirations. And I'm not really confident. I do still have girl moments where I don't like the way my clothes fit, but that just means you need to buy clothing that's different, or I had to get a stylist because I wanted to make sure that I liked, the style of what I wore for the event that I was in. But ultimately, I don't ever want your body to be your limitation. I don't ever want the way that you look to feel like you don't deserve the rooms that you desire to go into, or have been chosen to be in. You do. Your body is your oldest and greatest ally. It's gotten you through every single thing you've ever been in up until today. If you are alive and breathing and listening to this, that means that your body's doing great work. You should be grateful and thankful and happy about that. And anything you believe about your body that is negative was likely put in there because that's not organic. Raising 4 girls and seeing how they feel about their bodies based on how they are celebrated in our home is very telling. I won't speak to my eldest daughters because they're old enough to, speak for themselves, and I want to protect their privacy with respect to that. But I can tell you, I've spoken into my 14-year-old and my youngest, who's now 1, since they were, since she was 3 and obviously birth. And my 14-year-old, she's had stretch marks because she was a quick grower for a little while. And we've called them growing stripes. Like, oh, you got growing stripes, man. You're shooting up like a weed, and they're growing stripes to her. She is aware that her body frame is athletic and she's excited about that because she's a tennis player. It was odd to her to hear girls doing the sort of mean girl bashing thing of, I'm not skinny enough, or I want thigh gap, or whatever else, when for her, she's like, I literally just don't get it. I have thighs because they're strong and I need them for like running and squats. And that's been a really powerful and encouraging exercise to raise girls and realize how much of what we put in them is what they put out about themselves. And I just hope that a little bit of that's going into you today as you hear, how am I navigating being on the internet in this body, that has changed and evolved and will continue to evolve, right? I am not above plastic surgery, y'all. I will absolutely change, alter, modify, retain, remove, whatever the heck I feel like. And even if it's conversation, if someone's like, oh, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do more of that, like, okay. Like, I'm glad that you feel that way, and okay, like, let's do you next. Right? Like, it's so weird, like you would never, like, would you stand in front of someone else and say, you need to change this, this, and this, and then have them go back to you and be like, okay, now you do this, this, and this. What was achieved? What was the point? And you also never know people's personal goals and aspirations. Like, sometimes people are trying to get fit for like a bikini competition or because they're a competitor, or they're an athlete or whatever else. So I just, I get a lot of questions about, Nicole, how have you lost weight? How did you, keep off the weight? And how did you do whatever you did? And it's not some like magical mystery. It's the fact that I don't discuss it is not shame. It's responsibility. If I start being a person who sits here and takes lightly the responsibility of the fact that I have a microphone and people who sit here and go through all of that, especially if that's aligned with things that you're supposed to do or things that I'm selling, that can be really dangerous. And I don't take that lightly. Now, will I share what's worked for me and how I feel about what's worked for me and my personal journey? Sure. Is that what you should do? Probably not. You should start with talking to your doctor. You should start with what works best for you. But y'all, please be kind to yourselves. Like, be kind to yourselves and be kind to others, and know that whatever body you're in right now is good because it has you here today, waking up and achieving and attaining, and know that if there are things you want to change, you can. And the best place to start is with research and with healthy conversation, and make sure that whatever you're doing is coming from a place of acceptance and love around who you are, and not thinking that your body is going to convert into an admission ticket that will get you where you want to be. Because all of this stuff is temporary, all of it's temporary. Now, I say that to not bypass the realities of pretty privilege and our society, and how, if you look a certain way, it helps you get certain places. Like, we're not being so naive as to say that's not a thing, but you got what you got, you know what I mean? And let it be its best. And that's enough. And then be careful what you say in front of your children about your own body, and be careful what you say to them about their bodies, so that they can feel good and comfortable and confident, and because it sticks with them their whole life. And ultimately, when you look at people on the internet and you wonder, what have they done, or what is going on? Every time you decide to ask that question, just know that you're kind of adding to the bucket of what might come back on you. And you don't want to be part of that, because that is part of a societal, it is part of a societal system that ultimately doesn't benefit any of us. All that being said, I am not promising that I'll never give a full how I lost the weight breakdown, right? Or a full, this is what I'm doing to my body today, or I'm going to get plastic surgery, whatever. And this is not some like easy teasy precursor because I got some big thing coming up. I do not, right? In this economy, mama's not paying to do no makeovers, okay? Like, these boobies will be tucked into her waistband. I will, like, at best, she's investing in a good bra. Like, I'm okay with it. I had a baby and I am 42 this year. Like, please, but if I ever decide to do it, I may not share, and you may just notice that I look fresher and hey, good on me. Or I may take you on the whole journey, but whatever it is, I really hope that it's taken from a place of, Nicole, you told me more, and I'm so grateful for that, so that I could use that information in conjunction with my doctor to figure out what might work for me. And even if I decide to do nothing, I still love the body I'm in, because I deserve to love myself.